大家好，欢迎收看《旁观华尔街视角》。道琼斯平均工业指数今天一举冲破了3万点的历史关口。那么在今天，我请到了2位女性的投资专家，为大家一起呢分享一下他们现在如何理解股票市场的走势状况，和现在你应该采取什么样的投资策略。首先呢，一般认为今天道指出现大幅上升有3个原因。第一就是疫苗，在特朗普政府的紧急的策划，那么推出疫苗之后，现在正在筹划，赶快这个传送发送到这个民众手中，所以呢，大家可以不再惧怕疫情，最起码不会那么害怕。另外呢，就是可能即将上台的拜登又指名认定了耶伦女士有可能会做财政部长。所以大家都对耶伦是非常熟悉的，知道他是一个鸽派式的经济学家，所以他的心态呢可以说是比较保守，而支持经济增长是他的主要的一个理念，是这样推测的啊。所以呢，也还推测呢是鲍威尔还会继续承担联邦储备局的职务。所以这2位都是以鸽派为理念，而且都是推举资助经济计划赶快出台的这样掌握重要职务的财经人物的话，当然就引出了第3点，就是大规模的经济自助计划可能很快就会出台。所以从各方面来讲呢，现在股票市场已经进入了最佳的交易环境，所以有很多资金都是涌进了市场，在今天道指冲上3万点，就是一个非常明显的事实。那么后续如何？那么资金现在这个整合是不是还仍然存在呢？听专家的话。
There's a quote by John Templeton at the end of which says that bull markets die on euphoria, and that could happen.But right now, what you and I have talked about through the weeks has been the rotation into the true economic inside of the market, which is the small caps, which are flying, the retail, which is flying, and the transportation, which is flying. So that doesn't mean we couldn't have a normal correction, and I would certainly think that at this point, anybody who's sort of missed the boat is waiting for.But it really shows that there's true optimism. And so whatever happening with the virus right now, it's forward thinking. And they believe that we will get through this and that the vaccine will really help and that businesses aren't going to shut down any more than they already have. So perception, herd mentality, as they say.
是的。现在呢，这个大幅上升的趋势不光是很多专家没有想到，那很多投资人在场外观望的就更没想到了。可是升势这么快，你已经失去了这个趁低进场的机会，现在要不要追高呢？
The market is always setting new highs. So as scary as it might be to get in while it's at the top,You might wait for a couple days for a little bit of a pullback. However, it's still going to trend upwards. It's not necessarily, hey, we're hitting a high, it's time to get out. There will be a little bit of a drawdown likely. However, is it going to be a crash or correction that we saw in February? Probably not. So if you're averaging in dollars as well, that will overall average out your entry. So what seems high right now,in 3 months could seem like a great bargain.
The market always gives you other opportunities. There's always corrections, there's always selling, there's always new headlines. To chase the market up at these levels, what I always caution investors is about risk. When you have a risk that is so far compared to what your potential reward is when we're in uncharted territory,means that it's a recipe for potential disaster. Now, that doesn't mean the market couldn't go up higher, but it depends on the type of investment you want to do. If you want to catch the daily optimism and be a day trader, buy in the morning if something goes up, or wait to see if things hold and then buy and then sell in the afternoon, or maybe hold a little bit overnight, fine. But if you're going to do sort of a passive investing buy and hold up at these levels, then I think that you have the risk really is what would keep you up at night, certainly would keep me up at night.
就是说，对当日交易以及短期的投资人，早上进场，晚上出场，在一天的升幅之内可以获得不少的这个收入。那么长期投资人又应该如何因目前这个大幅上升的趋势？接下来，专家还为我们介绍一些其他的，也就是股票市场以外的一些投资机会。
if you're a long-term trader, I would be looking for other opportunities based on this optimism that are still relatively undervalued compared to what these big sectors like the Dow and the small caps and transportation retail are doing. Like, for example, commodities. We're still looking at the possibility of commodities. There were big news this week that a lot of the vessels are anchored out at sea because they can't get to dock. So they're holding a lot of raw materials, including petrol, by the way. You also have the Panama Canal blocked up right now. So that supply chain disruption that we have talked about for months is finally now starting to show some real physical evidence. So what does that mean? When you have supply limited and demand high, simple economics, that's inflationary. So what's still relatively cheap? We still have the food commodities relatively cheap. Of course, steel and copper have already taken up, but gold and silver have actually plunged through this because when the market has done risk on, they believe that there's no fear. Well, I think the fear really is going to be what's happening here, which is these unprecedented prices of going up of raw materials that eventually gold and silver will be back to looking like a buy, and I'm watching very carefully.
If the market is going to be going up to new highs, as well as if there is a stimulus, which Biden likely will be passing once he goes into office, that likely will see that the dollar might be dropping, a little bit of inflation, and metals will be increasing in price. Looking at the gold futures, we tested that 1800 level. Let me just check really quickly. We are back above it right now, 1802 as we speak. And that was a really important level. If we have the potential to if we break out above 1880, I'll be looking for roughly 2600 for gold. Not immediately, but likely over the next 16 months, a nice big move on the longer term picture for gold. And that will likely translate over into other precious metals such as silver and copper as well.
好，以上就是今天的内容。股票市场的大幅上升确实是人心振奋啊。那么星期二走势如何？那您在听了专家的分析之后，是不是能够在星期二试验着采取一下专家的建议来进场试水一下呢？不过风险还是很大。那么我们现在知道，最重要的风险还是要保护自己，不要受疫情的感染。谢谢您的收看，我们下次再见。